How's it going, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the Mavs Step Back Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Drew Johnson. You can find us both on X at Dalton_Trigg and at Coach Drew33. DJ, we made it. It was Mavs Media Day today. I would say I can't believe it's Mavs Media Day today, but I can believe it because it was honestly the most long, drawn-out, slow as molasses NBA offseason I've ever been a part of, honestly. Like, I can't believe how slow it's been. But it's finally coming to an end. Media Day is here where you get, plenty of interesting quotes. You get a lot of interesting media interactions that you probably, wouldn't get at any other point during the season because there's just some really some kind of dumb questions that that come up, and you get some funny reactions from the players because of that. So, it's a fun time. And the first thing I want to start with on this episode is Kyrie Irving and his recovery from his ACL injury, because from everything we've seen, he's back on the court. He's getting up shots. He's really been walking since the first month after that surgery because we saw him at WNBA games. By all accounts, Kyrie Irving seems to be ahead of schedule. I was about to say on schedule, but ahead of schedule. Well, Nico Harrison comes out during NBA Summer League, and he says it on live television that Kyrie is ahead of schedule and how he's not surprised and yada, yada, yada. Well, we see all these clips here recently. Everybody's getting excited. Me personally, I'm excited because I feel like he could return by Christmas, which would be 9 months since the ACL surgery. I feel like that's a reasonable timeline. But I also understand why, the Mavs want to be cautious. Kyrie wants to be cautious. You don't want to pressure him to come back any sooner than he needs to. So the theme, one of the themes of Mavs Media Day today was Jason Kidd and Kyrie Irving. Everybody's saying that Kyrie isn't ahead of schedule. He is on schedule. And again, I get it. I'm not saying that Kyrie should rush back. I understand that, they want to be cautious with it, but I fully believe it's just a PR move. And they're just doing that solely for the fact of lowering the pressure on Kyrie. I believe that Kyrie is ahead of schedule. I just think Nico jumped the gun and announced that publicly when he probably shouldn't have, which led to a bunch of extra hype. So if Nico hadn't said that during, the summer, there wouldn't have been anything, there wouldn't have been anything for the Mavs, Kyrie or Jason Kidd to throw a wet blanket on. It wouldn't have gotten this far. But, Nico started that.
It's just we could just add another one to the list of Nico's foot and mouth moments. I mean, what did we have? Fortune favors the bold. We had defense wins
over lottery.
Yeah, over the lottery. But we're bold.
Very bold. Very bold of the Mavs to win the lottery.
Player for Anthony freaking Davis. And then we somehow win the lottery by the grace of God. But we're bold.
That's pretty bold.
So bold.
So very bold. 1.8% chance. Bold. Crazy
Face
bold.
Yes. But anyway.
We'll put on a T-shirt.
We will. We will.
For real. We need to do that. We need to, what was the idea you had for the T-shirt?
So, all right. Y'all know, I'm sure we've all seen these rednecks driving around. And maybe, if you're listening to this, you are this redneck that has a guy like taking or urinating on something that he dislikes, right? Well, they have those. They have someone, farting something out. It's just vulgar. Anyway, so what I'm thinking is, we could make decals of it. We could make T-shirts. We could put them on coffee cups. We could just have quotes of Nico Harrison coming out of this cartoon's anus.
Oh.
And I think it would be great. I really do. I don't know how much it would sell, but it'd be hilarious. I'd get one. I mean,
The fortune favors the bold, and the defense wins championships, and then just a fart spelled out like
yeah.
P F F F F F F T T T T.
Or just like have
Just
them in the fart cloud. Like, you just have the dude bent over and you have like, the air bubbles coming out of his butt, and like the big air bubble, you just have it written out. You
now,
like a cloud font. It'd be great.
Now, in all seriousness, the Mavs have a chance to be pretty good this year. despite our our tongue-in-cheek comments here, the Mavs do have a chance to be pretty dang good this year. It's just funny how assertive you can be, how confident, how arrogant you can be when your franchise literally got saved by a fluke moment, like just pure dumb luck. Hey, but I'm happy, and people might say that the NBA lottery is rigged. I don't care. The Mavs finally benefited from something that was rigged for once. I don't care. Bring it on. I love Cooper Flagg. This is going to be awesome. So
I'm still salty over Luka. I'll forever be salty over Luka.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's going to be like that with a ton of people until, maybe forever. But, until we actually, have a basketball team that's winning a bunch of games and doesn't look like how the Mavs looked at the end of last season, there's going to be those feelings still. So, I get it.
Well, I think we're our own worst enemy in that regard. And I think a lot of it has to do with management, specifically the management of a certain person whom we are, discussing putting his quotes in fart clouds. So, yeah, I remember at the beginning of last season, we were talking about how good this team was going to be. And what does he do? He throws a big fat wrench in it. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer or a negative Nelly or whatever, acronym you want to throw out there. But with Nico, all things are possible. I'll just leave it at that. All things are possible. And they're usually in the negative spectrum. At least that's what I've come to realize, unfortunately.
Well, there is a natural fear among the fans. Now, look, it's like I said, it's like the basketball gods threw a life raft to the Mavs who didn't deserve it because they're the ones that threw themselves overboard in the first place. And then the basketball god said, hey, we're going to throw you a life raft. Here's your lottery winnings. You get Cooper Flagg. But because of the situation, because of the circumstances that led to them needing that to happen, people are thinking like, oh no, well, when's the next, big domino going to fall? When is the next rug going to be pulled out from under us? Is Nico going to try to trade Cooper Flagg for Giannis Antetokounmpo? Yeah. At one point, you were very scared about the Kevin Durant thing.
Yeah, I was. But you know what probably saved our asses there? Pardon my French. You know what probably saved us there? Kendrick Perkins came out and said that we should trade Cooper Flagg for Kevin Durant. And I was like, there's no way. I don't care what we think about Nico. There's no way he's going to go with anything that guy says.
It's like everybody has, a line that they're not going to cross, and that was the line.
That line is Kendrick Perkins. Do anything except what that guy says. On the court, off the court, whatever. Just don't.
Well, look, and again, like you said, you're not trying to be a Debbie Downer about it, but you're not the only one that still has like these deep-rooted feelings because of what happened. And I like I said, I get it. For the most part, I've moved past it. I'm looking forward to this season. I think it's going to be a good season, especially if Kyrie Irving comes back when I personally think he's going to come back because he's on schedule. Remember, he's not ahead of schedule. He's on schedule. I think it's going to be a good year. And even before Kyrie comes back, I think this team is going to be a pain to score on if you're the opposing team. Like length for days, athleticism, tall. Like that's another thing we're about to get into here in this next topic is Derek Lively coming back from the offseason, and he grew 2 inches. So he is now officially like 7'3", I think.
I'm sorry. Whenever you told me that, I said it was fake. I'm sorry for saying that. Because we see that crap. Do we not see this crap every year?
Do.
Off
We
of
do.
troll accounts, and I didn't even look at the account name. I just saw that, and it looked like every other one like that, and I was just like, it's fake.
Yeah, full context here. So when that came out, Chuck Cooperstein, voice of the Mavs, radio voice of the Mavs, he's the one that tweeted that out because he was at Mavs Media Day, and that quote came out from D Live, and so I saw Chuck tweet it. I shot it over to DJ, and his immediate response before even looking at it or anything, he said, "No, it's fake."
Fake.
Nah. It's like I don't think Chuck would have.
I've seen this too many times. And then in an immediate succession, I looked at it and I was like, "Oh wait, this might actually be real." This is like the first time this has ever been real.
You had me second guessing myself. If I was thinking like, did this come from a fake Chuck account?
That'd be a hell of a thing.
Oh, but yeah, so D Live, and I mean it's not surprising because he's so young still, and you see this a lot with guys. Their first couple years in the league, they do grow a little bit, and it just so happens the one that grew this time was already a 7-footer. So 7'3", and look, when you have a guy like Victor Wembanyama in your own division, those extra couple inches could help you a little bit. But I'm super excited about D Live. I think by his standards, he had a pretty subpar year last year. He had the foot fracture, I believe it was, that he had to get repaired. And that was a very mismanaged situation by the Mavs training staff, which they have a new training staff this year, apparently. So we'll see how that
qualified.
Was that?
Hopefully they're qualified.
Yeah. Hopefully they're qualified. Hopefully they, don't have any situations like this because D Live, he shouldn't have even been playing on that foot as long as he was. That led to him having to have that procedure done. But anyway, he's cleared. Everybody is cleared except for Kyrie for training camp, which is great. And again, I think D Live had a down year. Even before Luka got traded, he wasn't having. It was a sophomore slump, is what it was. He was still having a positive impact on the defensive end, but teams had kind of gotten used to the lobs. We talked about that a lot last year. Teams were taking that away, and he had a hard time adjusting to that because that's where a lot of his offensive production came from. So he's had to get back in the lab. He's been working on that little hook shot he's got around the rim. We know he can shoot. They just haven't given him the green light to do it yet. But I'm super excited about D Live. I think he's going to have a great year playing alongside Anthony Davis, Cooper Flagg, PJ Washington's back. We talked about him getting his big extension over the offseason. I mean, I think he's going to have a great year. I think he's going to be one of the more, like if I had a list of top 5 most impactful players on this team, Derek Lively is solidified in that top 5, in my opinion.
All right. Again, not going to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just going to tell you what I've come to learn in terms of basketball and just both coaching it and watching it. Derek Lively, Anthony Davis, even Cooper Flagg, their success is almost completely dependent upon how good our point guard play is going to be this year. It is damn near impossible for a post player to be effective without a good point guard to be able to get him the ball. It's just the way it is. They have to be set up. Derek Lively is not going to be able to create for himself. He has to be set up. Same thing with Anthony Davis. He's a little bit better at it than Derek Lively. And I know people will be like, mid-post. He's still got to be able to get the catch in the mid-post.
Yeah.
Same thing with Cooper Flagg, who's probably a better creator than either of those guys. But, and I've seen things about him, potentially running the one. I'm going to have to see it to believe it at the NBA level. That's just the way I am. I'm going to have to see it to believe it. If he can do it, great. He'll be able to see over a whole defense.
Yeah.
But I need to see it actually in action before I'm really sold on that. But for
against
right now,
real NBA competition too, not summer league spitballing.
right. So again, I got to see it in action before I'm a believer in that. And so, I think that there's the potential for all those guys to have big years, but one of our guys is going to have to step up on the perimeter, and it may be Flagg.
Yeah.
In which case, he truly would be the savior of the franchise. But we've got to have good guard play for our post players to have a good year.
I will say I think that's going to be one of the more underrated aspects of Cooper Flagg's rookie season is his perimeter shooting, because we've seen it the entire offseason, like even going back to summer league and then some of these videos where it shows him in shooting drills and everything. That shot has improved tremendously since he was at Duke.
Yep.
And that was one of the knocks on him was, that was probably going to have to be, changed at some, not changed completely, but tweaked, because it was kind of, I wouldn't say it had a hitch to it, but it just kind of looked awkward. And it seems like he smoothed that out pretty good. So I'm excited about that. It looks good. And I think, you never know how it's going to translate to real NBA basketball, but it looks good. And I think, there's enough talent on this team that, he could be, at the very least, he could be one of those pressure relief valve 3-point shooting guys.
No, his jumper looks fantastic, and I think that will be the thing that translates. What I want to see is him handling the ball against pressure, not just from guys his size. As a big dude, as a tall, lanky guy, I'm going to tell you one of the hardest things to do is to handle the ball against, smaller guards, the 6'4", 6'5" guys, hell, even the 6'2", 6'3", little quick dudes. That they're so hard to deal with as a big guy. And I'll be very curious to see if he can keep them off of him.
You can get your cookies stolen real quick.
Real quick. There's some quick guys in the NBA. I want to see what he looks like in a pick and roll situation, being the pick and roll ball handler. I want to see what he looks like whenever they blitz off the screen, whenever they double him, whenever they ice him. I want to see all these things. I want to see if he has the passing IQ necessary to be a perimeter facilitator, the perimeter facilitator that we need. I need to see all these things before I'm sold. I think he's got a ton of potential. But as a point guard, I need to see all these things.
And I think he's capable. Now, is he going to, hit the ground running with that this year or not? That's the big question. But if it does happen, DJ, we're gonna be accelerating our hopes here. Our hopes are going to go from potential playoff team, fun team, to, oh man, we might be championship contenders this year if he shows that so early. So, we'll see how it goes. But that's two people, D-Live, Cooper Flagg, they're going to have a big say in how good the Mavs are this year. So we'll see. And look, Anthony Davis too. I mean, as much flack as he gets just because of the trade he was a part of, a lot of it's not his fault. I actually felt bad for Anthony Davis after all that happened because the dude is a monster. He's a great player.
He's a top 15 player.
Top 15 player. He's a great player. He just happened to be traded for a top 3 player.
Nothing alongside him.
Right. It's not his fault. But again, this is where the lottery coming into play saved the Mavs, because now, it kind of changes the equation for him too, if he can stay healthy, which is always, a concern. Now, given he had been as healthy as he's ever been these last couple of seasons before the end of this last season where he had the groin issue, and then he had the detached retina issue that sounds extremely painful and unfortunate. But again, he is also fully cleared for training camp. So, he had the detached retina thing handled over the offseason, had a procedure done on it. It's healed. His doctor did, this was one thing we learned from Mavs Media Day, is his doctor mandated that he wears goggles, basically, eyewear protection for the rest of his career. So we're going to have Anthony Kareem Abdul-Jadavis for the rest of his playing time with the Mavs or
brow
whoever.
on top of the goggles, man.
The brow on top of the goggles. It's coming.
Man. Here comes a T-shirt.
I think he tried to wear the goggles with the Lakers, and he just hated it so much that he ditched it. But now the doctor's like, nah, this is non-negotiable. Like, you have to wear them now, or you're not going to have an eyeball. So we'll see we'll see how that affects his shooting, because honestly, it can't be much worse as far as like shooting from deep as what it was last year. Maybe that was part of it. Maybe that's why he wasn't shooting up to his standards, was because of the detached retina. So we'll see.
About the goggles, though, man, do they fog up? Like, I've never played in goggles, so I couldn't really tell you. But
well, I mean, there's different kinds. It doesn't have to necessarily be goggles. It can be like, it can be like some type of shades where it's like not where it's not like fully enclosed and it has some ventilation.
The Charles Oakleys.
Yeah, something like that.
That would be even better.
Yeah, I think that's what he should go with. That would look slick.
That would be something.
Yeah,
it'll definitely be interesting looking.
Yeah, one thing I'm not worried about when it comes to Anthony Davis is his defensive abilities, especially, if he stays healthy, he's on the court, he is going to be a minute. Like, I don't know how teams score with 7'3" Derek Lively and Anthony Davis on the court together, to be honest with you. Like, the perimeter defense is, a question, and I guess people could try and get open and hit threes, but in the paint, it is going to be absolute hell for other teams.
Especially if you play all three, Cooper Flagg, Derek Lively, Anthony Davis, that is a very scary defensive team. I would really like to see a lineup with AD, D-Live, Cooper Flagg, maybe PJ Washington. This is just an all.
I was about to say.
And Najee Marshall running the one. I'd like to see. I don't know. It may be a rock fight on offense, but by God, we're going to shut.
I don't know. Look, as well as Najee was handling the ball at the end of last season, in those opportunities where he kind of got to play that point forward type position, I don't know, man. That would be pretty solid. Najee's one of those dudes that has really flown under the radar this offseason too. People aren't talking about him. And, I think he kind of likes it that way too. He's going to be good, though. He's going to be real good.
It would not surprise me at all if that is a lineup that you see. That's something I'd throw out there personally.
I would too. Look, PJ Washington is a more than capable three-point shooter. He had a great year shoot. Well, I wouldn't say great, but he was above average three-point shooting last year. Whoever's shooting the best between Cooper Flagg and PJ Washington, stick them at the two and have your jumbo lineup. PJ or Flagg, either one of them can play the three, even though I honestly think PJ's best position is a stretch four. But I think it can be done, and I would love to see it. Dude, we had Udoka, the Rockets coach, today talking about how they had one of the biggest lineups in NBA history now with Amin Thompson running the point guard, and
I just don't know how that's going to work. I don't know.
It's not going to be ideal, but still, he's saying that lineup was one of the biggest in history. But no, it seems like the Rockets are going to try to emulate what the Mavs are going to run out there. Which, they're kind of in a situation like the Mavs where they have to, tinker and try some stuff out like that because Fred VanVleet tore his Achilles or ACL. I forgot. ACL.
He's out for the year.
Yep. Last week, tore that ACL, and so he's out for the year. That's a huge blow for them. So they're in the experimental phase too. But, man, I don't see how you get any bigger in a lineup than Najee Marshall, Cooper Flagg, PJ Washington, Anthony Davis, and Derek Lively.
Yeah.
Or Gafford. We haven't even talked about Daniel Gafford.
Yeah, he'll be great too. I mean, we have such a luxury as far as post players are concerned. Literally, we had the best, I want to say, front court stable in the NBA. I'd like to think so. But on the flip side, we're a giant question mark on the perimeter. So it'll be interesting to see. I think, in that specific lineup, I think you put Najee at the 1. I think he's probably the best ball handler. I think at the 2, you put your second best ball handler, whether that's PJ or Cooper Flagg. I could see it being either. Really, I could probably see it being Flagg just based off film that I've seen. But again, we don't know what he looks like against NBA competition.
Well, let's be real. I mean, Klay Thompson's going to start at the 2. Now, I don't know how long that's going to last. I don't know that lasts the entire season, but I have a feeling he's going to start at the 2, whether we like it or not. I would love to see Klay in a 6-man role at this point in his career, but I think the 4 championship rings and being arguably one of the bigger free agent signings in Mavs history probably solidifies him in that starting 2-guard role, at least for now.
And I hate that because I think that he has more to offer coming off the bench. I know that sounds crazy to say, but I think
it's true.
I think he has more to offer coming off the bench just because he's a step slower than he used to be. Injuries do that to you. Age does that to you. I still think he's a top 3 shooter in the NBA. Percentages may not suggest it, but if you look at the form and everything, it's flawless. Like there's nothing better.
Look, his last season with Golden State, I don't have the exact numbers pulled up in front of me right now, but his last season in Golden State, his splits as a starter versus coming off the bench, it wasn't even close. Like he was okay as a starter, but coming off the bench, he went from as a starter, he shot around like 37, 38% from 3, I believe. And then coming off the bench, it was like 43, 44%. Like his overall counting stats, like points and assists, rebound, all that stuff kind of stayed the same, but his efficiency went up. And I mean, I get it. Guys kind of have a little bit of an ego and they want to start and they have this, track record of being a champion and I get it. All that stuff factored in. But I mean, at what point do you go with the numbers?
Yeah. What he also has to understand though is Father Time comes for us all. So
yeah, he's 34, 35 now.
I mean, yeah, he's getting up there now. It's sad to say, but he is getting up there. But I think that coming off the bench would allow him to focus in more on a specific role, rather than starting. And that may sound strange, but whenever you come off the bench, it's like tunnel vision. You're able to really focus in on what you're supposed to do whenever you get out there. Whereas if you're a starter, you need to be a little bit more of a jack of all trades. You need to be able to do more of a little bit of everything, which earlier in his career, he was an elite 3-and-D guy. Now we're a step slower. Offensively speaking, we maybe can't handle the ball as well anymore. It happens. We're older now. We're not as athletic now. I think he would excel in a role coming off the bench where he's able to focus purely on knocking down shots, pursuing open looks, and playing good defense. And I think that's fine at this stage in his career. I think it's a fine role for him. I don't understand why he would be adverse to it. I really don't, especially if we are a team first guy, which he's always been, propped up to be.
Right.
I don't see why he wouldn't.
Yeah.
Personally.
And it may be we don't know what goes on behind the scenes in that regard, but it could be one of those things where, the Mavs themselves just are scared to approach him about something like that. We saw that with Luka. They had concerns about his diet and his his off-court habits and stuff like that. But I don't think anybody directly voiced those concerns to him. Instead, they just assumed that he wouldn't sign an extension with them if they voiced those concerns and traded him out of fear that he wasn't going to ever change. instead of addressing those issues head on and seeing what happened if they did. So
at this level, you got to be able to have hard conversations. And at this level, you have to be able to accept those conversations, those concerns.
I think he would have been open to it. And I think, at this point in Clay's career, I think he would be open to it as well. So
it's a mistake not holding people accountable, I think.
Yeah.
I don't care how good someone is. I don't care how scared you are of them leaving. All right, let's play the other side of this, okay? Let's say, we did say something to Luka about, his weight and he left because, we pissed him off about it or whatever. What does that say about Luka? It says more about Luka than it does about us. Same thing with Clay. What if Clay gets pissed off and leaves because we want him to take a role that better suits his current skill set? That says more about Clay than it does the Mavs. Instead, we got rid of Luka because we were afraid of having conversations with him. And that makes us look like idiots.
I agree.
Not only did we get rid of him, we got rid of him for something that was not worth anywhere near what he actually is. All because we're afraid to talk.
Yeah, and when you have a situation like you do now where, you might have guys who are bigger. Yeah, obviously they're not the shooters, the pure shooters that pure shooter that Klay Thompson is. But when you have such a lineup that you could have a big lineup where you could put Cooper Flagg or PJ Washington at the 2 and the 3 and vice versa, you really have to think about doing stuff like that. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, Jason Kidd, I think he gets a lot of unfair criticism. Now, there are some things that he does that annoy the crap out of me at times, like not calling a timeout. That man hates he thinks he can take timeouts home with him on the weekends and party with them or something. But like he refuses. He does not like using timeouts, and that's one of the things that it just annoys me to no end. But you also have people like Rick Carlisle. When he was in Dallas, it was the opposite problem. I thought he took too many timeouts.
Yeah.
And it kind of stalled momentum a couple times when he did that. So there's an extreme one way or the other. I wish he'd find a happy medium, but overall, I think Jason Kidd has been and I've said this for the last year or so, he's been a top 10 coach in the NBA for the last couple seasons. And, I get it. He had Luka the majority of that time, but I mean, there's a reason these players keep vouching for him and keep wanting to play for him. And, it's not because he doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, he has a good idea of what he needs to do. I just think he has to have a certain personnel to realize his vision, like to play the way he wants to play. He has to have a certain type of personnel. And it seems that he may have it now if Kyrie comes back and looks like Kyrie, but we'll just have to see. But I think Jason Kidd, if the results aren't there with Clay starting, I think they can have, a conversation and come to a conclusion. And look, if Clay isn't good with starting, you can trade him before the trade deadline this year in February. So,
I will be honest with you guys. Anyone that is over the age of pretty much 25 is expendable, I think, because let's face it, right now we're building around Cooper Flagg. And we're in win now mode, but if you don't want to buy into the role that allows us to win now, then what are we doing?
Yeah. Obviously, this is a different front office. It's a different situation. But I remember when Luka was a rookie, and the Mavs were thinking, okay, well, we have this core, or thought they had a core around Luka, veteran core that might work. It was, they had Harrison Barnes, they had DeAndre Jordan, Wes Matthews, and then the backcourt was Luka and Dennis Smith Jr. And at the time, they were thinking, okay, maybe we can make this work. Didn't turn out the way they thought it would. And then before the end of the calendar year was over, they actually went into the next calendar year. It was the end of January. They blew it up and did the Kristaps Porzingis trade. which didn't work out either. But, they kind of had an idea by the time it got to that next trade deadline with Luka as a rookie. Okay, this isn't going to work. We're going to pull the plug and go in a completely different direction and just build completely around Luka from this point forward, or at least attempt to. So it'll be interesting to see if this new front office, kind of follows that same path. Like if we get to around early to mid-December and this thing isn't looking the way it should, taking into consideration that Kyrie probably isn't back yet. But, I still think this team can be competitive without Kyrie. But if this team is just a dumpster fire by the time December rolls around, I think you start having some hard conversations and, potentially start selling off some of these bigger pieces on the roster that still have a lot of value on the trade market.
Yep. And then you trade them for draft picks because draft picks are power.
Draft picks and young players if possible.
Yeah, well, either or is fine with me. But no, I'm with you, man. If things aren't looking good, which, given the point guard situation, guys, I'm not trying to be negative, but we have a huge question mark at point guard right now with Kyrie out. And whenever he comes back, we've still got a pretty huge issue with depth at that position.
Now, you know who could be the answer at that point guard position, right?
My man.
This guy. We haven't even talked about it yet. It's been like a week and a half since we've been on a podcast, and we didn't even talk about the breaking news. But, guys, Dennis Smith Jr.'s back. We did it. We did it.
You did it.
We did it. I did it. I did it.
Build it into existence.
Mavs step back fam, we did it. We, they say you can manifest things, you can speak things into existence, and we did it, guys. Dennis Smith Jr.
This for the past 3 years.
That's right. More than that. I mean, it's been a long time coming, and it's funny because I'll talk with Dennis every now and then just to check in with him and everything. He's been trying to make this happen for the last at least 2 years, maybe a little bit longer than that. And it just wasn't for whatever reasons, it just didn't work out. It wasn't the right situation. And finally it happens. And it's so funny that it happens now because the only player remaining from that team that he was on the first time around is Dwight Powell.
Of course it is.
And he was actually asked about that today, and he said something to the effect of, I still have my dog Dwight Powell with me.
Dude, so speaking of Dwight Powell, this is completely off topic. We're about to go on a rabbit hole, but not really because it's not really real. But I love these memes that have Dwight Powell discussing the intricacies of thermodynamics and the making of the hydrogen bomb. And oh man,
is that confused Mavs fan on Instagram?
I think it may be Smart Mavs fan.
Smart Mavs fan, yeah, something like that. I'll have to look up the account, but that dude is hilarious.
I love those so much. That's one of my favorite accounts on Instagram right now. But yeah, those are great. I love that.
Well, and look, I'm not going to get my cart ahead of the horse here when it comes to DSJ, but dude, I'm so happy. Yep. And I asked him at the time. I was just like, hey, so do you know what number you're going to get? And he was just like, is 8 available? And I was like, well, it actually is because we just waived Omax not too long ago, and sure enough, there he is, number 8. So from number one to number 8, which is pretty funny, I think, because I think this is is this his 8th year in the league?
Oh, that'd be funny.
I don't know if it is or not. I'm going to have to look that up. But anyway, yeah, it's his eighth year in the league because he wasn't – it would have been his 9th, but he wasn't in the league last year. He played very briefly for Real Madrid last year. So, yeah, it's his 8th official season in the league, and he's wearing number 8. So, we'll see, dude. He's not guaranteed to make the 15-man roster, but honestly – I mean, he's in great physical condition. He's not battling any kind of, injuries earlier in his career. He had some knee issues. None of that is a concern right now. He's hungry. He's been wanting this opportunity for so long, and it's finally there in front of him. It would not shock me at all, DJ, and I'm not saying it's guaranteed to happen, but it would not shock me if he ends up beating out, Brandon Williams, for example. And I love Brandon Williams. Mm-hmm. He was pretty solid last year and showed like flashes of having Kyrie Irving type handles. Love Brandon Williams, but they're around the same age. And I could see Dennis Smith Jr. beating out Brandon Williams. I could also see Dennis Smith Jr. playing so well and at such a high intensity in this training camp and preseason that it forces the Mavs to find a salary dump trade for Jaden Hardy. So, and I don't know how possible that is. I don't know if you could actually, I say salary dump, but maybe you could trade him for a player that has a non-guaranteed type contract, kind of like Brandon Williams has right now. Mm-hmm. If Brandon Williams is waived by a certain date, I don't think his contract is guaranteed, but if he isn't waived by a certain date, he gets like a little over $800,000 or something for this season. So that's something to keep an eye on. I think, again, nothing's guaranteed, but I love this for Dennis. He's wanted it. He's worked hard to get back to the league. And dude, when his last season, so the season before last, when he was with the Brooklyn Nets, he was one of the top perimeter defenders in the entire NBA, and it kind of flew under the radar. Mm-hmm. And look, I get it. He has his limitations offensively, but he is a competent ball handler. He can get to the rim. His perimeter shooting is a point that he can work on, but he can handle the ball. He can get to the rim. And then on defense, he is an absolute dog. Mm-hmm. He will get up in guys. And he can stop. That's the thing. It's funny, DJ, because when you look at this roster, he's probably the Mavs' second or third best point of attack defender, and he's not even guaranteed a roster spot. That's pretty crazy. A team full of good defenders, don't get me wrong, but specifically point of attack defenders, I think he's top 2 or 3 on this 20-man training camp roster going into it.
So what's funny about the point of attack defender stat is I can't remember who said this, but I saw where it's him and like 2 other guys, and all 3 of them are towards the back of the rotation. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very strange.
Caleb Martin is one of those top 2 or 3 probably the best point of attack defender that the Mavs currently have. And, you don't know where he's going to fall in.
I don't know where he fits. I really
definitely coming off, the back end of the bench.
Yeah.
At the most. I don't think he's going to, play too big of a role, but that's crazy. And then look, given the Mavs point guard situation, and given how solid their defense appears to be, from every position down from the point guard position, going from shooting guard down to center, you would think having a guy like Dennis Smith Jr. to plug in there as you need him would be a pretty dang good, situation to have, or a tool to have in your toolbox, so to speak. So I get it. I mean, Brandon Williams showed you a little bit of something last year. He was a 2-way player. He earned a real contract off of that 2-way. Jason Kidd loves him. So, I mean, there's a little bit of bias there too, I'm sure. I get it, but I mean, I think if Dennis comes out there and plays the way I know he can during this training camp, it's going to be hard for the Mavs to keep him off of that 15-man roster. And I did see I think it was Mark Stein who noted this, even if he doesn't make the 15-man roster right now, because the Mavs signed him to that training camp deal when they did, even if he has to get waived from the training camp roster, the Texas Legends will have his rights, to where he could potentially play in the G League with the Legends. And then, if the Mavs later on, if they try to trade Jaden Hardy or somebody to free up a roster spot later on, or if they have injury issues or whatever, he could be very easily called up in a situation like that. So it'll be something interesting to keep an eye on as we go along here. But again, I'm so happy for Dennis. I'm happy that he finally got back to Dallas, where he's been wanting to be for the last couple of years. Completely different, front office, completely different coaching staff, completely different roster than what he, except for Dwight Powell, than what he was around the first time. But the same fans,
baby, he's a pillar.
Yeah, the same loving fan base that has been wanting him to come back for, most people have. They're finally getting what they want, and he definitely feels the love. So we'll see how it goes. Overall, very successful media day. I'm sure more will come out. I'm actually going to go look through all the official pictures that were taken and posted while I see what we're going to put as our promo image for the Substack. But DJ, that's going to do it for this episode. Everybody out there listening, look, we appreciate y'all. It's been a long, drawn-out summer. The pace hasn't been what I normally like it to be. But, me and DJ talked about it a few weeks ago. There was nothing to talk about for like a month plus, like 2 months. There was just like literally nothing to talk about. We would have just been coming on here and just babbling to babble, and I don't want to do that. So
we had that whole period of time where we were on LeBron watch, and then it was just dead.
Man, I'm honestly, and look, I do have fun with that. Everybody knows that. I have fun with that on Twitter. I have fun with that on the pods, but I am glad that that's over with, at least for now. Yeah, like you said, nothing's ever safe with Nico. You always have to.
God, if we trade Cooper Flagg for LeBron James, we're gonna take a trip to Dallas. We're gonna have those hard conversations I was talking about.
There is a trash can somewhere that needs to be stuffed. So, well, guys, look, we appreciate it. I hope y'all have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend when we get to it, because it's probably going to be. I'm actually going to be out of town, so it's probably going to be about a week and a half or so before we get to record another one. But we greatly appreciate you guys who have stuck with us through the long, drawn-out offseason. Hope you have a great week. Be sure to go like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Subscribe to the Substack. It's free, guys, unless we have like some kind of crazy exclusive interview that we put the paid thing on. Most of it's free, so go subscribe so you're never missing out on that. And then be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify, and leave us some reviews, because those reviews really help us out. And then obviously if you're watching on YouTube or, on Substack and you're watching the video version of this, you've seen mavstepbackmerch.dashery.com at the bottom of your screen. Definitely go check that out as well. We have some really nice designs on there. Most of them courtesy of Coach Drew over here, because he has just been in the kitchen cooking up all kinds of stuff over the offseason. That's what's going to be so funny, DJ, is when things really get rolling and the fans that went into hibernation over the offseason come back for Mavs basketball, and they check out these pods and they go look at what you've been cooking up over there over the offseason. They're going to be like, oh my God. Like,
guys, I ain't done. I've got something in the works for our Mexico game, our Day of the Dead game. Oh, awesome. It's cool. It's really cool. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, if y'all look, if you have Mavs, I know Mavs fans listen to this podcast, but if you have family members that are Mavs fans also, and you want like unique Christmas gifts and stuff, go check out our merch at mavstepbackmerch.dashery.com. We have some shirts on there that I will guarantee your Mavs family will enjoy to have, for the holidays. So definitely go check it out. Well, guys, again, we appreciate it, and we hope you have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.